All squaring the
Yeah,
timber
yeah.
by with axe, eh?
with axes at that time.
Yeah.
And then when they brought them down, when they had rapids below the dam here, they'd take them apart and pass them through. And then below they'd put the raft together again and keep going down. That's the way they used to do right down to Montreal.
Take the whole summer to go down to,
Oh, yeah,
sometimes 2 summer, eh?
Because there was a lot of places they had to
Yeah,
take
to
it apart and
dismantle.
put it together.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and redo the raft
Yeah.
again.
And then they had to do all the stuff that was on there, the stove, they had to bring that down by the land.
Yes.
And then rebuilt and put that on the raft again and keep going down, right down to Montreal.
It changed in the last because there was no question. I guess that was the bread and butter. That's all they had. There was
Oh, yeah, it was,
no social
No.
services
you
whatsoever.
you couldn't keep meat very much on there. So there was-
Now, in volume, CIP, when before they shut down in '72, what kind of volume they were cutting? You know, that was their main way of transportation to supply their mill with the wood. Was the large watershed of Lake Temiskaming, which had drained way past Val-d'Or, north of Val-d'Or, and Rouen, and the Kenojivas River, and the Ottawa River. They were all drawing that.
Yeah.
Was floating. They were floating all the
Yeah.
wood into Lake Temiskaming, and you had the mandate to bring that to the mill.
See, CIP up above, they used to bring down the Rapid 7, Rapid 2. They used to pass the wood there and come down to Sturgeon Rapid on Lake Expense, and take it down to Keynes Lake, right down to...
That's an Angelier area, Angelier, Moffett, and
and then they used to leave it go there, and it come down by itself down to Notre Dame du Nord.
and then you were picking up. That where you start there,
Yeah.
and then above that, I guess, was CIP was doing that.
Above the bridge up north, that was CIP, that was provincial. But
Okay.
below the bridge was federal.
Okay,
That's why we had the charter of federal.
okay.
The CIP, we had nothing up over there. And then, like we said, we tore down about from 26 to 37 toes we used to take down in the summertime. Enough for the mill at the Temiskaming to run all winter.
Yeah, the mill was, I guess, the consumption of that mill, I think, was something like between 600 cords a day,
And,
roughly, and they were running 350, 360 days a
Yeah.
year. So you're talking 250,000 to 300,000 cord that you were taking down.
Yeah, because each toe we take down 7,500 cords around that. We bring down to each toe.
230, yeah, you're
Yeah.
at 220, 230,
The
225.
first year they didn't take down as much as you say, because the mill was pretty small. But sometimes the summer wouldn't be very long, the first year it was started here. But the mill got bigger and bigger at the Temiskaming, so here they had more wood to take down all the time. The first year I was here in 1944, it was 65 men on this week. So
They
we
were
had
picking up all the logs on the shore,
all around Lake
pulpwood.
Temiskaming, yeah.
put that into the boom and float that away to
bring
bring
it to the big boat, so they'd bring it back down here. We had lots of students, like they'd go to school and they'd come and work on the sweep for a while, and then sometimes they'd go away before the sweep was finished, but most of the time at that time, the sweep would last about 4 months.
4 months. You start how early in the spring then when the water is cold there, they'd go in the water just the same.
Yeah, but as soon as the water would be high enough, they would start. Sometimes it'd be the enemy, but
And they would go in the water to their waist.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, we used to have a foreman there, Peter Diot. He said, "You're not made out of sugar."
And they go in the water to their waist
Oh,
all
yeah.
day, wet all day.
They get sometimes they'd watch themselves, but the pickaroon they would slip or something, they'd fall in, so they'd be wet all day anyway.
It's hard work.
That's-
When the operation, I guess, when they stopped floating, I guess they must be what, in the 70, 75, 78?
78, his last boom came down, the King's boom.
Oh.
But after that, the way
They had a bit of sweep. I remember when sweep on King's
2
Lake.
years after they swept here,
Yeah.
the lake after that.
So the other means of transportation.
Yeah.
Now, there's two things that strike me is when Tembec started in '73, Was it the same that year? They had problem. People were against floating in at Ville Marie at the old fort there.
Yeah, well,
There was a group.
yeah, they had
And I
a
think
kind of
that
a strike there one
Yeah,
time.
there was. They were objecting for
Yeah.
the river float. Well, the water floating.
Yeah, well, they thought that they'd stop it because there was too many logs along the river.
And would pollute the
Yeah.
bottom. And I remember we had the federal come in
Yeah.
to that was about a year
Yeah,
after, if I recall. There was some people when we had to Ville Marie, they had a court on that. Well, not court, I guess, some sort of arbitration. But the one that struck me the most is when when CIP had closed. They had a lot of wood on the river.
oh,
And they want to, the Tembec was just been created, and CIP didn't see that they were not in favor that to restart that mill because in their book it was scrap, and in New York, they were based in New York, so we don't want that mill to reopen, so they did everything they can, I guess, to not reopen the mill. And the government had to make, both government, the federal and provincial, had to make to step in. But they had, if I recall, at the dam, CIP had a big boom. They had, I guess, the boom was, I don't know how many cords they had. They wanted to drive that to their mill in Gatineau. CIP. But they had stopped, and you people had the boat.
yeah,
I guess we could laugh at that today. It was no fun.
There was a lot of small boats came from Temiskaming. At that time, was Theberge was there, and the small boats would come every morning to watch us, so we didn't open it.
So that was you people. They were watching you not to open the boom.
Not open. And
Because we'll go to the dam, we'll go down the dam, and then it's gone.
they would have lost 35,000 cords.
So that was important to start the mill.
start the
That
mill.
fall was in
Yeah.
August, I guess, or September, something like that. Eh?
So they wanted to keep the wood here.
Yeah, to start the mill.
Yeah, that's why we were about 2 weeks at the.
2 weeks. Eh?
Every morning we'd go down there, and the gang would come along and watch us.
So you didn't. There was no confrontation or
No,
just.
no. Well, I didn't want to pass the wood neither, because if I ever opened the boom, all
You had an interest that the Tembec was
Yeah,
creating, and
I didn't
that
want
mill
it.
will be reopened.
I didn't want neither for these people would have been caught on the logs, and maybe they would have went through the dam. They couldn't have got out of the logs.
Okay.
So at the same time, it was to save the people too there.
Okay, yeah, for safety, you didn't want to.
Well, we didn't want to open, but some of them had canoes and stuff like that. So all we had to do was jump the boom, and the boom would have broken, the wood would have went down. But our boat would weigh to 30, I think about 18 tons. So, but anyway, if the wood would ever went, the people would have been caught in the wood and maybe go through the dam
Yeah.
too. But it's just that's a big axe. That's an axe for making the wood square, like for all the wood at that time, or in the olden days, it was an axe like that. They were using square wood. They put a chalk mark on the wood, and they take another axe and they would chip it all along, and then they would take this axe here, and they had a big long handle on it, and they would make the piece of wood really square. If you were left hand, they put it on one side. If you were right hand, they put it on the other side. They call that the drawn axe. And that's, they made even the pieces in this building, the opemican depot, they fixed the pieces along here, and they fixed it with that. It was all done with the drawn axe. Now I have a bell here. It's for the steamers. All the boats with steam, it was fixed this way. It was a bell, you had to ring it, and one ring it was a head, three rings it was a little faster, and they had the jingler to jingle to go fast. And then if you want to reverse, well, there's two dings to go backwards, and if you want to stop, it's one ding. That's all of the steamers to tell the engineer in the bottom what to do. That was the bell like that. And Here we have a little pot. It's for not for lead, but it's for zinc or Bavet. And if they want to fix up the boats, all the steamers, there was all Bavet bearings in it. And that's what they were using to make the bearings. That was a little pot they'd warm up, and all the Bavet would melt in there. And they'd put a little hole in the Bavet, in the bearing, and they would leak and fill up the bearing with that, with Bavet. And we have here a ring. That's an oil ring off the PG Muir. You can see the size of the piston. It's 1 foot. And just the piston and the connecting rod would weigh 250 pounds. And that's, we were showing you there the size of the pistons. The engine would weigh 24 tons. It was 8 foot high by 12 feet long. And there was no transmission on the PG Muir. The PG Muir had kind of the valve. They had 4 sets of valves in it. And they had a little arm. They'd shove it backwards, or shove the camshaft backwards, or shove it ahead. If you want to reverse it, they'd shove it one way, and the reverse, the engine would stop and start reverse, going backwards. Then it would stop and go ahead. They had no transmission in the big boat. And it would start by air. 250 pounds of air as the way they would start the engine. The air would go down in the piston and shove it and make the piston go back and forth. That's the way the engine used to start. Now I have a pair of cork boots here. You see the nails on the bottom. That's for the guys was working on the drive. They had that to run on the timber. And if they had to run across some logs sometimes, they'd go across. But that was the boots they used to wear. A pair like that today maybe would worth about $300. At our time, the last ones we got, we had to get 150 pairs, and we had paid $150 or $125 a pair. But they don't make them anymore. There's no more drive, so they don't make them. This is a very good pair yet. And the older boots, that was all wooden pegs here, but now you could see it's all brass nails in them now. The last ones we got. The wooden pegs, as soon as it would get, you'd go in the water, they would swell up and keep your sole solid. So that's, these cork boots, they're very in good shape yet. You did some running on timber, you could see they wore out a bit. This is the Wabas. That used to be a boat it used to bring the booms from Kane's Boom up north to Miskilmine to Chief's Island. And there used to be 6 men on this boat. And they used to burn oil. They call it bunk oil. They used to make steam. And the boiler, this boat it took apart here down at Opemican here, and they took it all apart. And then the boiler on that, it's along the road there, the boiler off this boat. The engine, it's gone, but there's only the boiler left on this boat. Now, if you see this picture here, this is the scows we had to go around the lake for picking up logs. And this, these cows here in 1944, we used to sleep 32 men by a scow. We sleep 2 men together, and it was 64 men and the 2 scows. And the other one you see here, it was a cookery. And then there was a diesel, or not a diesel, but a steamer on the front we used to use to pull booms around. But these cows there, they were 55 feet long by 12 feet wide. And there's just little windows on the side. There was windows at the back end of it, and a stove on the back end of it. But the rest, it was a little window with just a screen in it, and a board to close it. And we had coal light lamps in there, 1950. In 1951, then we got gas lamps in them. And the lamp used to go out at night at 9 o'clock because the people had to sleep. At that time, at them days, we used to work 10 hours a day to go around the lake. That's sweeping. We used to move every 10 miles or so. We'd move from one bay to the other going around the lake. And the Lake Temiskaming, it's 340 miles around the lake if you count all the bays, around all the bays. Yeah, the boats I'm going to show you, it's the Lady Minto. It's 149 feet long, and there was about 11 men on there because it would shift. They used to put on 100 tons of coal on there for 1 week to do a trip, to go up north on Chief's Island and come back here. And if alongside of it, you can see there's a impeller that belonged to it. It's a 9-foot impeller used to be on it, and it used to turn 100 turns a minute. And the other, that's for the Lady Minto. Now it was changed to oil in 48, and we seen tanks up above here, and they come out of it. The front tanks, but there was a lot of more tanks than that inside of it because that boat used to burn what they call bunk oil. And the oil, the bunk oil used to, at that time they'd pay 10 cents a gallon. But it used to use about from 100 to 110, 120 gallons an hour for fuel. Because there was 2 big fires in there to burn, to make steam. That's for the Lady Minto. Now we have the Alexandra here. You can see that's a bigger one. It's the biggest boat that was on Lake Temiskaming. The Alexandra had about 165 feet long, and it was pretty wide. It had 3 fires in it. And when it burned coal, that one never burned oil. It always burned coal, and it was so hard on the firemen. At last they put stokers in them. They had stoker. They fill up the stoker, and it used to feed by